I would rate
Yes.
President Rodrigo Duterte's handling of foreign policy, especially when you talk about issues that have something to do with the PCA ruling or the South
Yes.
China Sea in general as 9. Why 9? Precisely because there's no such thing as perfect. Okay, there's no
Mm.
administration as perfect. 9 precisely because with the emerging geopolitics, no, that is we are confronted with as a country kasi nasa tayo, very strategic location. He was
Yes.
able to manage it, no? Manage in a sense that you have to manage your relation between China and you have another um, existing countries that has you manage to, like for example the US. He was able to manage it very well, and it's very pragmatic, it's very prudent way of managing relations, that even if you have differences, you still have to forge good bilateral relation, especially in the economic side. And this benefited a lot, no, to the Filipino people. Example of that is the pandemic response. Take note, we have the first country that responded to our problem with the pandemic, especially when you talk about vaccines, is China. It donated 1 million, I think, if it's not, I'm not mistaken, 1 million vaccines to us. Hindi lang yun. Talagang hinatid pa dito kasi nga nagwo-worry na tayo na wala na tayong, parang nahuhuli tayo, no, sa ASEAN. So hinatid nila yung 1 million donation of Sinovac vaccine. And even prior to the vaccine stage, no, na pagkakaroon ng vaccines, ang dami din ng, dahil sa good bilateral relation natin with China, medical supplies through multiple channels, not only from the public sector or state led na assistance ng China, but even from the public private sectors, no, mga businessmen, mga relationship with other groups based in China, they donated medical supplies and equipment. Just to point out, like for example, 150 sets of high flow um, humidifiers, 130 ventilators, 250,000 test kits, and 1.8 million of personal protective equipment during the time na sobrang nagkukulang tayo sa PPEs. No? These are fruits of our good bilateral relation with China, na nandyan yung tinatawag ni President Duterte na independent foreign policy. A friend to all but enemy to none. But take note, hindi lang naman yun eh. Hindi lang yung relationship natin with China yung maganda. Even our relation with the United States is still okay. Relation with Japan, relation with Korea, relation with Australia, and we benefited from that. If you look at the BBB project, the build, you can see that there's so many investment in there. It's not only China, no? Even Japan, Korea invested on our build program. So this is what I think is important. That's why I will give him or 9 out of 10 because of the tangible benefits that his foreign policy had brought to the country. I think that's much more important.
I agree absolutely with Anna, no? But I would like to give our president a great point of 8 because I would like to allow more rooms for improvement. And where are the 8 points coming from? The 8 points coming from are from the what I call diversification of our foreign relations. We were able to repair our damaged political ties with China as a result of the international arbitration case, as well as the 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff. And for me, that's a major victory because we experienced a rapid turnaround in Philippine-China relations. That from the lowest of Philippines-China relations under the time of former President Noynoy Aquino, our relationship with China experienced newest heights under Duterte, and that brought back the spirit of friendship with China that dates back many centuries ago. For me, that's a great achievement in foreign policy. But at the same time, it also led to the effective handling of our security alliance with the United States. And I agree with Anna that our alliance with the United States remains to be vibrant, remains to be strong and stable, and celebrating the 75 years of bilateral ties. And but the context now is that because we are asserting an independent foreign policy, we are making it known to the United States that gone are the days that we identify our foreign policy with the foreign policy interest of the United States, unlike before, where we find our foreign policy as identical with the foreign policy of the United States, but not anymore now. We are now asserting a more independent, more autonomous foreign policy. And we also have a very good relationship with Japan, and we are now negotiating for status of forces agreement with Japan. And we also have this good strategic partnership with Australia, and we are implementing our status of forces agreement with Australia and solidifying our existing strategic partnership with South Korea, where we enjoy purchasing some of our military equipments necessary for the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines. And most importantly, we're able to revitalize our foreign relations with Russia, Israel, and other countries neglected during the past year. So those are the 8 points coming from. But what are the 2 points? I consider the 2 points as rooms for improvement because as a scholar, I would like to see the president delivering more statesmanship when it comes to the handling of foreign relations. Kasi itong ating presidente natin, laking Davao to, no? Laking local government. When it comes to foreign relations, dapat mas diplomat ka pa sa iyong mga ambassadors, dapat mas diplomat ka pa sa iyong foreign affairs secretary. And he's not only the head of government, he's also the head of state. And as the head of state, I want to see our president delivering more statesmanship when it comes to our foreign policy and as implementation of our foreign relations. You know, his delivery of his speech before the United Nations General Assembly is one example of statesmanship. You know, that's the kind of statesmanship I want to see from our president. And at the same time, improvement will also come from reaching out with other neighbors, like, for example, reaching out, strengthening our relationship with other international organizations like OPEC, like the BRICS, and other similar organizations like RCEP. So I want our foreign policy not only to focus on individual sovereign states, but also on international organizations, like I mentioned, and most importantly, our relationship with the United Nations. Thank you, Wilson.
What about Mr. George Siy of IDC, who is more economics oriented in his outlook? How would you rate the independent foreign policy of President Duterte, especially regarding this controversy about the disputed territories, his handling of it in the last few years? From a rating of 1 to the maximum grade of 10, how would you rate the president and why?
You know, there's an advantage to being the third speaker because then I can adjust according to the first two. No, based on that, I would put him at about 8. No, and for this reason, it's his performance in depending on the dimension can be very fantastic, and on the others, subject to difference of opinion. Ang simula para sa atin, I think, whether people think of it or not, the most important is anybody who has gone through very difficult war knows nothing is worth a war. Almost nothing is worth a war. So in preventing an actual confrontation, yan na ang isa sa mga hindi naramdaman na accomplishment ni President Duterte, dahil a lot of times our accomplishment is not getting into something rather than getting into something, no? And if some people say, anyway, hindi naman tayo talagang magkakagera with China at that point, we can point out to the Marawi crisis dahil we almost became a terrorist state, no? Many countries have gone into it, and we've seen Iraq, Syria, Yemen. Once you start, hindi ka makakabalik, no? So ito ay napakahirap. We were able to avoid that. And from the economic viewpoint, we have been able to gain very big benefits in that, first of all, we are surviving this crisis very much also due to the help of China, but also the US. No, but also during our most darkest period, yung China was able to give us assistance, as was pointed out by Anna. And going into the future, because we have not damaged relationships, we can look forward to a very bright future. Given the growth of China, currently the economy based on purchasing power parity is almost the same as the US, but they expect to double it again in the next 8 to 10 years, and it is just right beside us. So the potential future is very, very bright, but it's up to us also to take advantage of that. If I may be allowed to share some of the benefits, no, that people may be aware of, but somehow Carpio, Del Rosario, Risa keep saying that there's no benefits. I think we should sit down and have a confrontation or maybe a debate and let them present the data that they have. No, can we please share the slide, please? Okay, so currently, maybe the biggest thing is that we did not slide into a total mess or disaster because of the medical assistance that was pointed out already by Anna. No? So we had 1 million donated vaccines and several 4 or 5 million more delivered maybe before anybody else did. What people may not see so clearly is that there are over 100,000 new jobs directly. We're talking about 700,000 jobs that are indirectly created because there's 30,000 teachers. When we talked to 51 2 years ago, there was 16,000. So they've doubled it that are online teaching from the home. So they don't have to go abroad. The construction projects, there's about 40,000 workers. No, and then there are many other service jobs that later on we can count them to be close to 500,000. So apart from the 300,000 OFWs bringing home $1 billion plus annually, we have billions in infrastructure. Again, we're wondering why Carpio or Del Rosario or Quisha can say there are no benefits. We would like to point this out to them and let them disprove this. No? We have 2 roads worth $100 million that are donated. If we look at today's value, it's already close to $200 million because the cost of construction has gone up so much. No? We also have 110 or 20 million, $120 million forgiven from the North Rail project, no, of our loans. There's a pending project of $3.5 billion steel plant, but it's still pending our approval. Of course, what is already on the way is the Kaliwa Dam that will provide the water needs of our cities, 13 million people, aside from Angat. So we're talking about very hot periods. If you experience this summer, ay napakainit, no? Saan manggagaling ang tubig natin? I'm sure those people who are complaining and say there are no benefits, it would be very good if they will not drink the water from these dams, no? Siguro maligo na lang sila dyan sa tabi-tabi, no? And then there's also very extensive education programs that are not being publicized because there's a training. Can we have another slide? Yes, we have, well, it's not written here, but they are training thousands of engineers now, software engineers and 5G engineers in the Philippines. Huawei, Fiber Homes, and others are helping upgrade our engineering capacity. No? Can we keep, yeah, so they're training all these engineers, also construction engineers. Yeah, so we have 1.5 million tourists that came in 2019, becoming the first or second largest group and slated already to become the largest. Remember, China had 150 million tourists going abroad in 2019, spending 50% more than all the US tourists and Western tourists combined. No? But in the Philippines, there's a lot more opportunity. In Thailand, they had 11.5 million tourists in 2019 from China alone. No? And then we had over $1 billion investments in the economy that were not registered in real estate, office, warehousing, and other jobs. We had the farmers' incomes increase substantially agriculturally. We had over $600 million in banana exports alone, which is an increase of over 3 times. And we also have assistances in rice and fingerlings, among other things. So a lot of this is not publicized. Next, please. So this is, we have to remember, every state that went into terrorist mode, Libya and others have, Iraq had suffered over 1 million casualties, people who died. Syria had suffered over 300,000. Libya had suffered over 300,000. Yemen has suffered over 300,000 who died. We almost became one of them. So we have to thank ourselves also. China and Russia came in. We have to remember the US actually blocked the sale of weapons to the Philippines during that period. China and Russia shipped weapons here, and then in the end, the US also assisted, and we have to thank everybody who helped stop the Philippines in record time. They stopped us from becoming an ISIS state within 8 months. It was a resolved issue from a military viewpoint, but we still have a recovery of the market that we have to deal with. Next, please. Yeah, so currently we can see the infrastructure. We are very much welcoming our friends. The bridge is almost finished. The $100 million bridges are almost finished. We'd like to invite our friends at a later time. Maybe we can go celebrate and have some time to eat at that period. Thank you. This is just some of the advantages that economically we've had since Duterte became, because we have to remember also, aside from China's investments, there's a cluster effect because of the massive increase in market, in tourism and other expenditures. Other countries also came in to invest. So Japan ended up investing over $9 billion in the metro and other rail and other projects, when during the previous administration, they did not exceed $1.5 billion. And the same with the US and EU, despite this pivot to being more friendly with China without being against the US, the investments from the US and EU also became a record high compared to all our other administrations. Thank you.